Hello everyone, check this out. I got a green rail system. Ready? Whoa, what? Wait, what? Where's the track going? Wait, is that a mountain in front of us? I don't want to make holes in this world. You say you want a green track. I hope you know what you were saying. 'Cause you just ruined that mountain, but wait a minute. It just went back into place. What? 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 It fills everything back in. Well, if I never. Looks like I really did make a green infinite rail system. And that's what I'm teaching you guys how to build today. Okay, so here we are in a brandly new generating amplified terrain. Let's just pick a decent y coordinate. It doesn't even need to be, shoot, it doesn't really matter what it is. So we can go to, let's let it load for a second here. Let's pick a good z coordinate. The x coordinate probably won't matter so much. So let's go ahead and just go to, and here we are. Yeah, green should be good. Anyway, we're at y equals 100, and our z is at 0, so let's go ahead and we're going to be going this way towards positive x, so we're going to need a little space to work with. So I'm going to say /give command underscore block, and that doesn't work. You actually need to type in your name. So let's go ahead and place a command block there, and we're actually going to need multiple ones. So we're going to need a second one, then we're going to need a third one, and one right next to the third one, and then we're going to need a fourth one and a fifth one. And the glowstone is going to come right after the fifth one. 3 blocks up, and it's also going to come right after the second one, or I mean right on top of the second one. 3 blocks up as well. And then let's go ahead and just make like a ceiling around this. And all this is pretty much just going to prevent any water or sand or things that shouldn't like interfere with us from coming and interfering with us. Walls, as long as you're at least 1 block in front of this command block, and we're going to end up going like 4 blocks in front of this command block up here. Now this is the only structure we're actually physically going to build. The rest of the structures will just be generated as they're needed a little bit. So let's just go ahead and pick some kind of floor block. So because we need something solid for the tracks to go on. I believe that's enough. So we have a glowstone here, and then we're going to need to go out 3 blocks from that and have power tracks there. You want to be able to turn it off at the right time and stop replicating at the right time. If you just try to get out of your minecart and the minecart keeps going, it's just going to keep replicating and make a mess, so it's harder to work with. I'd rather just have something that I can turn off and it'll stop me right here after where I actually want to be stopped. For now, let's go ahead and start programming these. So for the first command block, you're going to type clone. You're going to put this squirrely, and this is going to be a relative coordinate. So I'm going to put this character right here, and I'm just going to call it relative. So relative -15, and then this is an absolute coordinate because I'm just going to put the number. So 251. So no matter what y value we're at, it's always going to place it at y equals 251. Okay, then we're going to place relative -1. So that's the z coordinate. Okay, so I'm just going to keep going, naming off all the numbers. So relative -2, absolute 254, relative 1, relative -15, relative 0. You don't need to type the 0, you just put that character right there, and then relative -1. So that's our first command block, and we have a few more to go. So let's go ahead and do the second one. Fill, relative -18, absolute 250, relative -2, relative -4, absolute 255, relative 2, and type air. So we're going to fill a rectangle full of air using that command block. Okay, now for the next one, we're going to do another fill, and it's going to be 9. Actually, sorry, we can fix that. It's actually relative 9, absolute 250, relative -2, relative 23, absolute 255, relative 2, and then type glass. Okay. Now for the command block next to it, we're going to program that one right now too. So go ahead and type fill, relative -6, absolute 250, relative -3, relative -6, absolute 255, relative 1, and then type glass. And we'll go ahead and just replace that. Now for the next one, it's going to be a clone. So clone, relative 7, relative 0 without typing a 0, relative -1, relative 20, relative 3, relative 1, relative 7, absolute 251, and then relative -1. So that's going to be essentially just cloning the terrain in front of us up into the sky where it's going to be held temporarily. So this last one is also going to be a clone. This is where we clone our track. So we're going to put relative -9, relative 0. I almost typed the 0 there. Relative -1, relative 4, relative 3, relative 1, relative 5, relative 0, and relative -1. Okay, so hopefully I didn't mess up any of those. I'm going to go ahead and hold shift and put detector rails on top of all of these command blocks right here. So now we have pretty much everything. I believe we have our track, we have our command blocks programmed, we have our glowstone, we have our switch. Let's go ahead and power those rails right there. Okay, so I believe we have everything. Hopefully I didn't mess up. I'm going to get a minecart and we'll test this. The only problem I hope that we'll have is just the terrain generation might be really bad since we're in amplified. But let's go ahead and give it a try. Okay, let's see. Okay, good. Looks like things are getting deleted behind us. Okay. It looks... I believe it looks okay so far, but I can't be sure, so let's go ahead and check. So I'm going to stop here, repower this, and we'll escape. And let's go ahead and look. There shouldn't be any glass or anything left behind. Sometimes it leaves behind command blocks. I think that's just a glitch, but there shouldn't be really anything else. Maybe some signs or command blocks, that's about it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to teleport to 255, so /TP, and then my name, and then I'm going to put relative X, 255Y, and relative Z. And here we are. So it looks like our current Oh good, so it has a section of mountain here. So it looks like we're about to run into a mountain. And that already got copied. So everything looks good so far. Uh-oh, I can feel that lag. It just froze there for a second. So let's go ahead and keep going and just see if this works. There we go. I think we've done it. So there you go. We have a clean track replication system. This track will go on infinitely and it will always erase everything that it had in the sky. And it'll also erase the track behind you, and it'll replace the terrain behind you as well. So there's still some bugs with the command blocks being left behind, but I'm sure that will get fixed sometime soon. But for now, just have fun and make yourself some replicating tracks. And I will see you guys later. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at how this track works. So I start here, and that was a pretty funny accident. Uh, and the first command block I trigger is going to paste the terrain behind us, the terrain that's up in the sky above this section over here. And then the next block is going to erase the container up there behind us. The next block is going to create a container in front of us, and the container that's currently above it is going to put a cap behind it in the back. Then we're going to clone the terrain in front of us to inside of the container, and then we're going to duplicate the track in front of us, and that's how it works. A note about capping the container. Everything works out. When we go ahead and we delete the container, it deletes the cap for the last one. But the reason why we have to do the cap separate is because there's a cap on the front of the last one. And when we paste our new terrain inside of it from the last track, we're actually, let's see, we would be right here on the last track. We'd be on this step. When that terrain gets copied up here, it actually overlaps with the glass from the last step that we were on. And that might allow for water or something to pour out. So basically this right here, this is an extra cap section that was replaced, because in the previous section I'll just show you really quick. The previous section came out, and it actually ends right where this glass is. So the previous section could have had plants or, grass or something here. But then the new section comes in and it also has some grass and it can come all the way up to here. Okay, so what happens is this previous section needs to be deleted. But then you have like this big open just plain that looks just like this. And all this is basically uncovered. So if there's any like lava or water or something like that, it'll start to fall, and it might fall too quickly to actually start creating problems. And we don't want to have some kind of water that's just some kind of water block that's just like left behind, like let's say right about here or something like that. Or maybe one flows down, and even though these are deleted, um, there might be water just like staying there, and then it will get copied or it'll just flow down or something, and we don't want that. We just want everything to be contained. So essentially what I do is I put that cap on top just to make sure that everything is good and everything is contained. And of course there's always the top and the front covered, and that's just how the overlapping had to work out. So when we duplicate the track, all of these command blocks get duplicated, and then we just start the process over from step 1 again. So let's go ahead and I'll start an amplified world right here, and let's just make one from scratch. So let's go ahead and call this one the track tutorial. We'll do it in creative, and we'll also do it in amplified mode. So let's go ahead and create this world. I hope you're excited as I am. So it takes a minute to generate all this. Okay, here we are. What we need to do is select what our height is going to be. Let's let it load a little bit.